Name is Dominic Davis. I'm 35 years old. I'm a franchise support specialist for Assurant and T-Mobile, as well as a small business owner of a junk removal company called MXD Junkin and a social club called Motivated Social. I've got two children, one 7, one 4. I'm married, and forgot what the last part was. Okay.
All right. So, let's see, kick this off with what does being a father mean to you?
What does being a father mean to me? Um, Being a father is what it means to me is being a full time role model, being a full time support system, being a full time whatever it is that your children need at any given place time, whether it's a therapist, a friend, or just someone who's going to be honest with them and tell them the truth when they need to hear it, even though it might hurt.
So, what is your relationship like with your father?
What is my relationship like with my father? My father has been in my life my whole life. At this point, I consider him my best friend, my mentor, and my biggest role model.
Okay. So, having him in your life, um, how do you think that has impacted you?
How having my father in my life impacted me, I would say the biggest thing is always having a second set of eyes on you, even though you didn't think they were there. Um, Especially when it comes to things like making those bad choices, those poor choices that we do as young teenage males. Just it's almost like an intuition for a father to understand how his son is growing, and kind of catching you either right before you fall or letting you fall and picking you up and dusting you off, saying I could have saw that coming.
So, how old were you when you had your first child? And tell me what that experience was like for you.
How old was I when I had my first child and what the experience was like? um, I was 29 years old. I was 29 going on 30, when I had my daughter, and it was probably, if not the biggest wake up call I've ever had. um, it just completely changed my mindset, softened my heart, softened my head a little bit more too, and just gave me the ability to pick up some skills that were always there, but I never really had a chance to dive into because I wasn't thinking about that at the time.
Okay. So, did you have a support system as a father to help you? I should say, as a father.
Did I have a support system as a Did I have a support system as a father? I'll say it's 50-50. My parents live in Detroit, so that's 2 hours away. And my wife's family, they all live out here. Our family structures are a little bit different. I come from a family to where I would say that my mom would take the kids anytime I would ask her to if I lived a little closer. And her family's a little bit more, it's a time, place, limit on when they do stuff, which each family's different. And it's hard when you're away from home because I gave up everything that I was doing, um, because me and my wife weren't like living together when she got pregnant. So I dropped everything that I was doing and moved back to Grand Rapids and literally started from scratch all over. So the support system, not so much, but I had the phone calls. Even at the age of 29 and trying to pay for stuff, I still had my dad dropping me off cash every now and then just to make sure I was good. Even though I didn't ask for it, he was there. So yes and no.
So, what do you enjoy most about being a father?
What do I enjoy most about being a father? Everything. Watching my kids grow, watching my kids develop, learn more things, show me sides of me that they got from me, and seeing sides of their mom that they got from their mom. But the biggest thing is just seeing them interact with the world, and just be two decent human beings, and hopefully it stays that way. But it's just a beautiful process. So there's not 1 second where I can go, man, I hate this part about being a dad. It's a blessing all the way through.
Still, so tell me, In what ways did becoming a father change
In what ways did becoming a father change me? Um, Gave me patience, not only for myself but for other people. Growing up, I had a horrible temper. Um, I still do, but I have something else to think about before I make any decision, whether it be a financial decision or an emotional decision. I think about my two kids. I think about my wife too, but it's a lot more on the line. Um, it's a lot more to lose, and it's definitely something that will help me, you know, be able to give them something and give them a few steps ahead, in this thing we call life, just by having those children and being able to change my mindset.
Speaking of your wife, what's the relationship like and the dynamic with you guys as parents?
Um, as far as like what her parents are like and what my parents are like,
No,
or
what
just
you guys together? How does the parenting look with you guys together?
how does the parenting look with us together? It's a unique situation, and it's even outside of fatherhood, marriage is something that's a very hard task, because it's a ever evolving relationship with yourself, with your spouse, um, and it's essentially pivoting, compromising, forgiving, and understanding. And so, we both work two full time jobs. She also runs her own business on the side. I run two businesses on the side. Um, and it's just the understanding that we both know what we're trying to achieve. And that's to, even though I had a good childhood and she'd say she'd had a good childhood, we want to make sure our kids have a better childhood than we've ever could imagine, even for ourselves, but also, set them up for success for the future. So, we got one mission. And, at times it can be difficult, but we got each other's backs, and you know that's just how it works. We know we're doing it for each other and the kids.
So, have you ever felt underappreciated as a father?
Have I ever felt unappreciated as a father? That's a tricky question, especially from a black male's perspective. In this day and age, it's we have a different view of a father. Whereas when I was growing up, my dad made some basketball games, he made some football games, but he ran his own business, so there was a lot of things that he couldn't be around for that my mom was around for. And I think with a lot of our fathers, if they were in our life when we were growing up, they probably worked a job, and our moms were at the plays and the events and things like that. So I'd say you know it's gather my thought here. Ask me the question one more time.
Have you ever felt underappreciated as a
Yeah.
father?
So I would say that I have, um, just because as fathers now we do so much for our kids, and I think it either comes from you seeing yourself have a good father or not having a father in your life to either want to top that or be something that you never had. And once you set that standard for yourself and you start to show that in a public setting, um, people think it's the norm. Like every father is supposed to be this way. And there are nights I don't sleep. There are nights that I got to get up or mornings I got to get up early. There are days I got to go to bed late. Because of tending to the kids, and it's just like that wasn't the way that my father essentially was around. But I was never afraid of that challenge. It's just people think that's the normal, and once you realize being a father, a full-time father that's there for your kids and having the emotional capacity, the mental capacity, um, to deal with these day-to-day things, fathers before us that I would say essentially didn't have those same abilities because it was almost like be tough. And because we're able to be a little bit more compassionate and have a little bit more patience, again, it's a normal, and it definitely doesn't get as much respect as it should.
So, I'm gonna go off script here a little bit and ask you a
Yeah.
question that's probably gonna be just for you.
Yeah.
So, um, because you said something that intrigued me. So as men and as fathers today,
Yep.
do you feel like we're overcompensating for the generation before us?
For the fathers today, do I think we're overcompensating? I don't think we're overcompensating. I think we've just tapped into a different level of understanding for our children because society has essentially allowed us to be home more if we do things the right way. Um, and I say do things the right way because I work remote for my full time job, so I get to pick up my kids from school every day. I get to drop them off every day. My daughter's in Girl Scouts. I drop her off to the Girl Scout meetings. My son wanted to pick up skateboarding on my lunch breaks during the summer. We would go outside and skateboard. So it was just like there was things that I'm available for, and because I'm available, I start to see the full personality of my children. To whether that, you know, me growing up being at home with my mom and her having to deal with some of the stuff that my dad wasn't around to see, it may have not distracted him, but he didn't see those side of things until maybe I got older and he had more time with me. But now because I have time with my kids, you know, I know what their triggers are. I know what upsets them. I know what they like. I know what they hate. I know what foods they like. I know what foods they hate. And I've got to go full circle. So I've got to be which my wife, she sees it too, right? She's there. She's around too. So, I've got to be the loving father. I've got to be the stern father. I've got to be the coachable father. So it's so many hats as a father that I'm wearing now. Um, I don't think we're overcompensating. I just think we've got more time to understand our children. And I would say even now in the kind of society that we have, it's important that we have that time because there's some ugly and evil stuff out there. And without fathers, some of these kids, I can see them going down the wrong path because they don't have that in their life.
Second question off here,
Yeah.
availability. You just touched on something that I think is important. So I want you to elaborate on that a little bit more. Do you think there is a lack of consideration for the aspect of availability when it comes to our fathers and our grandfathers who may have raised our fathers?
Oh, absolutely. I don't really know how to rephrase that question and ask it back to you, but as far as availability, if you look back, our fathers and grandfathers, that's what they were known for is working, paying the bills, bringing the bacon home. Um, so it calls them, and any movie that has a father that has a six-figure job, that's the wife's biggest beef is he's on another sales trip. You think about the movie Love and Basketball. He was on a sales trip, and it trickles into the household. So it's just like that. Yeah, our fathers and grandfathers couldn't be available because they had, some sort of blue collar job, I would assume, if they didn't run their own business or were executive. And anytime they can take overtime, especially this time of year, yeah, they're taking overtime for Christmas and New Year's and holiday trips and stuff like that. They were workers. That's all they did.
Appreciate that. Last question. What advice would you give to a new father?
What advice would I give to a new father? You're always going to be learning. So there aren't really too many mistakes you can make. It's just everything's a learning opportunity. Um, be patient with yourself and be patient with the people around you. And the biggest thing is, you can't be a good and fully present father without having yourself being fully present. And I mean that in an emotional sense. So, as far as doing things for yourself, do things for yourself. And I mean, everything that you enjoy doing, do that for yourself because you're able to give a great you to your children, whether that's going to the gym, playing, rec basketball, if it's seeing a therapist, if you're into cars and, going in the garage and wrenching on cars, that don't give up the things that you enjoy because once you start giving up those things, I think that's when the overcompensation starts to come in because now you're trying to fill voids that you think you're giving your children when it's really you're trying to be a good you and give yourself the stuff that you need, but you're also trying to give your kids everything. So, keep doing the things that make you happy and, just learn how to manage your time as best as you can.